For over a century, we've been told that Victorian gentlemen travelled to Italy for the art, the culture, and the refinement of their classical education. We've imagined them standing before Michelangelo's David with scholarly notebooks, sketching architectural details and writing earnest letters home about the improving nature of Renaissance frescoes. We've pictured them as buttoned-up, sexless aesthetes, more interested in Latin inscriptions than Latin lovers. That image of the Victorian Grand Tour, all marble statues and moral improvement, might be missing something rather significant. Tonight you are Lord Alfred Douglas and it's 1894. You've just told your mother you're going to Venice to study Tintoretto's use of light. What you haven't told her is that you've already received 3 coded telegrams from friends about a certain palazzo where the proprietor asks no questions, the wine flows freely, and the local gondoliers are remarkably understanding about midnight visits between bachelor apartments. You're 24 years old, you've got your father's money and none of his supervision, and you're about to join what might be history's most elaborate system for avoiding Victorian sexual propriety. You're not just taking the Grand Tour, you're taking the gay Grand Tour, and there's an entire underground railroad of fellow travellers who've already mapped out exactly where you need to go. The evidence for this parallel Grand Tour isn't just speculation or wishful thinking. In 2018, renovations at the Palazzo Mocenigo in Venice uncovered a hidden cache of documents, photographs, and personal effects that had been walled up since 1895. Among them were hotel registers with fascinating patterns of single male guests, coded guidebooks with symbols that definitely weren't marking good restaurants, and photographs. Oh, the photographs of English gentlemen with Italian models in poses that would make even modern Instagram influencers blush. One particularly memorable image shows a portly British banker reclining as Bacchus, while a very athletic Venetian youth feeds him grapes. The banker's expression suggests he thinks he's being subtle. The photographs suggest otherwise. This discovery, made in what locals had long called the Bachelor Hotel, reveals something extraordinary about Victorian society's greatest open secret. As we settle in tonight, we're going to uncover not just what archaeologists found behind those Venetian walls, but what it tells us about the surprisingly relatable lives of men who turned studying abroad into an art form all its own. But before we begin this journey together, write in the comments where you are listening from. It's fascinating to learn where in the world you are. Also, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. Now dim the lights and prepare to discover why this story will change how you think about Victorian propriety, Italian hospitality, and the real reasons so many English gentlemen became lifelong enthusiasts of Venetian architecture. Chapter 1. The Palazzo of Extremely Open Secrets. You arrive at the Palazzo Mocenigo on a humid September evening in 1894, your trunk heavy with the wrong clothes for Italian weather and the right letters of introduction for Italian society, or at least a very particular subset of it. The gondolier who brought you from the train station didn't ask for an address. You simply said, "The English Palazzo," and he nodded knowingly, the same way a modern taxi driver might nod when you name a notorious nightclub. The building itself looks respectable enough from the outside. 3 stories of fading pink stucco, green shutters, and the requisite amount of Renaissance detail to satisfy any suspicious relatives who might inquire about your accommodations. But step through the water gate, and you immediately understand why your friend Charles called it the most dangerous address in Venice for one's reputation, and the safest for one's true nature. The proprietor, Signor Benedetti, greets you in the entrance hall. He's a fascinating character, a former opera singer whose career ended mysteriously in Rome, now running what he calls a pension for artistic gentlemen. His guest register, the one that survived behind the wall, tells an extraordinary story. Between 1890 and 1895, over 300 English bachelors signed in, all between the ages of 20 and 40, all travelling alone, all staying for precisely 3 weeks. The maximum time one could claim was needed to thoroughly study Venetian art without raising suspicions back home. The code names in the register are delicious in their transparency. There's Mr. Achilles, who arrived with Mr. Patroclus, Mr. Hadrian, who requested a room overlooking Mr. Antinous' quarters, and at least 15 different Mr. Smiths, who all somehow had the same handwriting. One particularly bold guest signed in as Oscar Fingal O'Flaherty Wills Wilde, his real name, just 6 months before his trials would make such openness impossible. But it's the photographs that truly bring this world to life. That cache behind the wall contained over 200 images, and they're a masterclass in Victorian doublespeck. Every single one is labelled as an artistic study or classical tableau. There's you, or rather Lord Alfred Douglas, dressed as Ganymede, cupbearer to the gods, while an Italian youth dressed as Zeus looks at you with an expression that has absolutely nothing to do with classical mythology and everything to do with why you're both wearing significantly fewer clothes than the September weather would warrant. The photographer, Giuseppe Raimondi, had a studio on the ground floor of the Palazzo. His business cards, also found in the cache, advertised discreet artistic photography for discerning gentlemen. The discreet part apparently meant that he kept 2 sets of books, one for the tax inspectors showing portraits of visiting merchants, and another, real one showing what actually paid for his champagne lifestyle. His prices were extraordinary, the equivalent of a working man's monthly wage for a single artistic session. Yet he was booked solid, with appointments sometimes scheduled at 2 a.m. for optimal lighting conditions. What makes Raimondi's work fascinating isn't just the obvious homoeroticism, it's the elaborate effort to maintain plausible deniability. Every photograph has a classical or artistic justification. You're not embracing a naked Italian youth, you're recreating the death of Hyacinthus. You're not gazing longingly at your gondolier, you're depicting Mercury and a mortal. The props department must have been extraordinary. Laurel wreaths, lyres, strategically placed urns, and enough draped fabric to stock a theatre company. The coded guidebook found with these materials takes this art of disguise even further. Written in English but published in Venice, it's titled A Gentleman's Guide to Venetian Architecture. Except the architectural symbols in the margins aren't marking churches and palazzos. A small Greek lambda marks accommodating establishments. A triangle indicates sympathetic proprietors. A circle with a dot means exercise caution. And a double Venus symbol, 2 circles with crosses, marks locations where architectural appreciation may be conducted after midnight. Your own copy of this guide, Lord Alfred, has additional handwritten notes. Next to the entry for the Café Florian, you've written, Tuesday evenings, northeast corner, ask for Giuseppe's special table. The Rialto Bridge entry includes third pillar from the south. After 10 p.m, wear a red carnation. The city becomes a vast coded map. Every landmark a potential meeting place. Every innocent tourist site a cover story for something far more interesting. The most revealing document, though, is a letter from one guest to another, never sent, perhaps too dangerous even for the Italian postal system. My dear boy, it begins, Venice is everything London is not. Here one may walk arm in arm with beauty itself and call it appreciation of local customs. One may share a gondola built for one and call it economy. One may live, truly live, and call it art. I've been dead for 40 years in England. Here, for 3 weeks, I am finally alive. Chapter 2. The Brotherhood of Perpetual Bachelors. By your second week at the Palazzo Mocenigo, you've discovered something remarkable. You're not just visiting a tolerant city, you're joining an entire parallel society. The Victorian gay grand tour isn't just about individual freedom, it's about a carefully constructed network that stretches from London's clubs to Cairo's hotels, with Italy as its beating heart. The excavated documents reveal an extraordinary system. There's a leather-bound notebook, water-damaged but legible, that contains what can only be described as a gay travel agency's client list. Names, addresses, interests, coded naturally, and most importantly, letters of introduction. Your name appears on page 47. Lord A.D., Poetry, Hellenistic Studies, Swimming. References, O.W. London, R.R. Paris, Count V. Naples. Preferences, artistic, athletic, discreet. Avoid, Germans, too serious. Americans, Too loud, anyone from Birmingham knows father. This network had its own economy. The Palazzo's financial records, hidden in a false bottom drawer and discovered only when the furniture was being restored, show a fascinating payment system. Room rates were negotiable based on reciprocal introductions. Bring a new member to the network, get a week free. Vouch for someone who causes scandal, pay double. There's even what appears to be an insurance fund, contributions to support anyone who needed to leave England suddenly due to domestic complications. The photographs from this period show the same faces appearing across different Italian cities. There's you at the Palazzo Mocenigo, then the same group at Lord Byron's former villa in Venice, then again at a villa in Capri. It's like looking at Victorian Instagram. If Instagram was sepia-toned and everyone was pretending to be interested in classical statuary. Byron's villa deserves special attention. By 1894, it had been transformed into what one visitor called Athens on the Adriatic. The current tenant, an English expatriate named James Morrison, almost certainly not his real name, had created what can only be described as a gay commune with pretensions. The daily schedule, posted in the hallway and now in the Venice Archaeological Museum, is magnificent in its optimism. 8 a.m. athletic exercises in the garden, clothing optional. 10 a.m. breakfast and improving conversation. 12 p.m. artistic pursuits, life drawing, sculpture appreciation. 2 p.m. siesta, rooms must remain unlocked for safety. 4 p.m. swimming and sun worship. 6 p.m. cocktails and Byronic poetry. 8 p.m. dinner, toga dress encouraged. 10 p.m. evening entertainments, see Giuseppe for details. The evening entertainments were legendary. One elderly Venetian interviewed in the 1960s remembered his grandfather, who worked as a footman at the villa, describing parties where English gentlemen performed Greek dramas wearing very historically inaccurate costumes. They called it culture, the old man laughed, but it was the happiest culture you ever saw. The coded guidebooks evolved into an art form. By 1894, there were at least 3 different versions circulating. The basic edition, Monuments of Venice, used architectural terms as codes. A sturdy foundation meant a safe meeting place. Crumbling facade warned of police attention. Recent renovations indicated new management that might not be sympathetic. Magnificent rear entrance meant, well, some codes weren't that subtle. The advanced edition, the artistic gentleman's companion to Italy, included entire itineraries. Your copy has a suggested 3-week tour. Days 1 to 3, acclimatization in Venice, see Signor B at the Palazzo M. Days 4 to 7, excursion to Padua, university students very welcoming. Days 8 to 14, Naples and Capri, Baron von G hosts Tuesday salons. Days 15 to 21, return to Venice via Florence, avoid the pension Browning, proprietress has English relatives. But the masterpiece was Classical Sites of Modern Italy, which provided complete cover stories. Each entry included not just where to go, but what to tell suspicious relatives. The entry for Capri reads, "Tell concerned parties you are studying the ruins of Villa Jovis." Tiberius's palace provides excellent excuse for extended stay. Local guides very knowledgeable about ancient Roman customs, particularly after dark. Note: local wine stronger than expected. Blame any indiscretions on this. The social dynamics within this network were complex. The cash included calling cards with subtle signals. A card with the corner turned down meant receiving visitors. 2 corners meant very much receiving visitors. The entire card folded in half apparently meant husband arrived from England unexpectedly. Stay away. There were rules, unwritten, but understood. Never use real names in telegrams. Always have an artistic project to discuss at dinner. Learn at least 5 facts about whatever monument you're supposedly studying. Keep a boring journal to show relatives and an interesting one hidden in your luggage. And most importantly, what happens in Venice stays in Venice, unless it happens in Capri, in which case it definitely stays in Capri because even Venice had standards. The network protected its own. When young Lord Somerset faced scandal in London, The network spirited him to Venice within 48 hours. When a Birmingham industrialist's son was arrested in Naples for public indecency, swimming naked at noon, the fool, the network's lawyers had him released and on a ship to Greece before his father could find out. The motto, never written but always understood, was, "We take care of our own because no one else will." Chapter 3. The Venetian Finishing School. 3 weeks into your stay, you've learned that the Palazzo Mocenigo isn't just a refuge, it's an education. The Victorian gay grand tour served as a kind of finishing school, teaching young men not just how to love, but how to survive loving the wrong gender in the right century. The daily routine at the Palazzo, documented in a guest diary found in the wall cache, was carefully structured. Mornings were for maintaining appearances. You'd write dutiful letters home about churches visited and paintings admired. The Palazzo provided a library of art books for reference, margins filled with helpful notes. Mention this if asked about Tuesday, or good excuse for being out all night. Afternoons were for education of a different sort. The Palazzo's salon hosted what Signor Benedetti called conversation circles. The topics recorded in his appointment book were magnificently coded: Greek wrestling techniques, the sculptural form in motion, Venetian nocturnal architecture, and the particularly popular advanced Italian vocabulary for artistic appreciation. These weren't just euphemisms. The network understood that knowledge was protection. You learned which Italian phrases would get you out of trouble with police. I'm studying for my doctorate in classical literature. You learned which gestures meant interested, not interested, and my roommate is a government informant. You learned the crucial difference between Venetian law, relatively relaxed, and papal law, relatively fatal. The photographs from this period show the education in progress. There's a series of wrestling instruction images that would make any modern personal trainer proud, or blush. The models, invariably young Venetian men of remarkable flexibility, demonstrate holds with names like the Athenian grip and the Spartan submission. Your own presence in several of these photos, Lord Alfred, suggests you were a dedicated student of classical athletics. But the real education happened in the evening tutorials. Giuseppe Raimondi, the photographer, also served as what he called a cultural liaison. His job was to introduce English visitors to appropriate local companions for linguistic practice. His ledger, discovered behind a false panel, lists these companions with business-like efficiency. Marco, gondolier, speaks some English, very discreet, allergic to shellfish. Antonio, art student, genuinely knows about art, tendency to fall in love. Pietro, former seminary student, excellent Latin, avoid religious discussions. The process was remarkably organised. New arrivals would have an orientation with Giuseppe, who would assess their interests, experience level, and more importantly, their ability to be discreet. Based on this, they'd be matched with appropriate companions. The inexperienced got gentle teachers. The reckless got stern minders. The generous got whatever they wanted. Your own orientation notes survive, written in Giuseppe's careful hand. Lord A.D. Previous experience evident, good Italian, terrible at discretion when drinking. Assign Marco, patient, or Giovanni. Doesn't speak English, can't repeat stories. The financial arrangements were surprisingly modern. Rather than crude transactions, there was a system of patronage. English visitors would sponsor Italian youth's education, art supplies, or family businesses. The fiction was maintained even in private. Your accounts show payments to Ems Rossini for language instruction and G. Bellini for artistic modelling. The fact that neither gentleman appears to have existed is beside the point. The Palazzo also served as a safe space for experimentation with identity. A trunk discovered in the attic contained what can only be described as a Victorian drag wardrobe. Photographs show English gentlemen dressed as Venetian ladies for carnival practice, though carnival was months away. There's you, Lord Alfred, in a magnificent green silk gown, fan held coquettishly, looking far more comfortable than any Victorian gentleman should in a corset. These dress-up sessions weren't just play, they were practice for the masked balls that provided perfect cover for public affection. At Carnival, anyone could kiss anyone. Men could dress as women, women as men. And for a few precious nights, Venice's usual tolerance became official policy. The network made sure to schedule visits during these periods. The Palazzo's booking records show triple rates for Carnival Week, and a waiting list 2 years long. The education extended to practical matters of the heart. There's a fascinating document, Rules for Romantic Correspondence, found in the cache. It advises, never write love when admiration will suffice. Never write admiration when regard is safer. Never write regard when silence is wisest. But if you must write love, learn Italian first. It sounds less criminal in translation. The veterans taught the newcomers survival skills, how to recognize a police informant, too many questions about specific names, how to handle blackmail attempts, never pay, always counter-threaten with social embarrassment, how to explain extended absences to family, develop a chronic condition requiring Mediterranean air, how to choose trustworthy servants, Venetians yes, Romans maybe, Neapolitans never. There was even a peculiar form of sex education, a medical text. The Gentleman's Guide to Hygiene in Southern Climates is clearly about more than avoiding malaria. Chapters on preventing inflammation, appropriate use of olive oil, and the importance of regular examination between companions leave little to imagination while maintaining perfect medical propriety. Chapter 4. The Capri Conspiracy. By November 1894, you've graduated from Venice's relatively safe embrace to the wild shores of Capri, where the Victorian gay grand tour reached its most audacious heights. If Venice was a finishing school, Capri was the advanced degree, a sun-soaked island where the normal rules didn't just bend, they evaporated like morning mist over the Mediterranean. The archaeological evidence from Capri is even more extraordinary than Venice. In 2019, renovations at the Villa Certosella uncovered a sealed room containing what historians now call the Capri Archive. Hundreds of photographs, letters and documents that reveal an entire shadow society operating in parallel to the official expatriate community. The photographs are staggering in their openness. Unlike the carefully staged classical images from Venice, the Capri photos show genuine moments of affection. There's you, Lord Alfred, swimming naked with 3 Italian boys at the Blue Grotto, all of you laughing at something outside the frame. There's a beach picnic where English gentlemen and Italian youths lie intertwined like a Baroque painting come to life. There's a series from a sunset party where someone has written on the back, Paradise, November 1894. Wish this could last forever. The ringleader of Capri's gay colony was Baron Wilhelm von Glöden, a German photographer who turned the island into his personal Arcadia. His villa, perched on the cliffs above Marina Piccola, was legendary, even by Capri standards. The guest book, recovered from the archive, reads like a who's who of gay Victorian society. Oscar Wilde, signing as Sebastian Melmoth, Somerset Maugham, here for tuberculosis treatment, and at least a dozen members of Parliament, all suffering from various respiratory ailments that required extended Mediterranean cures. Von Glöden's contribution to the network went beyond hospitality. He essentially invented a new form of plausibly deniable homoeroticism, the anthropological photograph. His images of local boys, posed as ancient Greeks or Sicilian shepherds, were sold throughout Europe as educational materials. Universities bought them, museums collected them. Your own father probably had some in his study, filed under classical reference materials, never suspecting his son was friends with the models. The Baron's business records, found in a hidden compartment in his desk, reveal the economics of desire. A simple portrait cost 5 lire, a classical study cost 20, a private modelling session cost whatever the client could afford, and based on the numbers, they could afford quite a lot. One English lord paid the equivalent of a working man's annual salary for a week of intensive photographic instruction. But Capri offered more than just photographic souvenirs. The island had developed an entire infrastructure for the gay grand tour. The Hotel Quisisana advertised rooms with connecting doors for travelling companions. The Café Hidegege served special coffee that was mostly brandy and looked the other way when patrons disappeared upstairs in pairs. The beach at Marina Piccola was unofficially designated as clothing optional for artistic sun studies. Your letters from this period, Lord Alfred, discovered in your Italian lover's descendants attic in 1987, are revelatory. "Dearest boy," one begins, "Capri is what Greece must have been before Christianity ruined everything. Yesterday we recreated the symposium on the beach, though with rather less philosophy and rather more swimming. The Baron says I have the perfect Hellenic form, which is flattery, but I'll take it. Tomorrow we sail to the Blue Grotto for what Giuseppe calls Neptune's birthday, which apparently involves no clothes and lots of wine. I may never return to foggy London." The social dynamics on Capri were fascinatingly different from Venice. While Venice required discretion, Capri celebrated openness, at least within the charmed circle. The archive contains programs from elaborate parties, the Bacchanalia of 1894, Hadrian's birthday celebration, the Feast of Antinous. These weren't subtle affairs. The invitation to one party specifies togas optional, inhibitions discouraged, wives strictly prohibited. The entertainment was equally bold. There are photographs of theatrical performances that would make modern pride parades look restrained. English gentlemen performing Salome's dance, Italian youths dressed as nymphs, and what appears to be an entire production of Lysistrata, with an all-male cast playing all roles, including the women, with historically inaccurate but anatomically impressive costumes. The Capri network had also developed sophisticated warning systems. A series of flags flown from the Baron's villa communicated different messages. White meant all clear. Yellow meant new arrivals, exercise caution. Red meant authorities present, maintain strictest propriety. Black meant someone's wife has arrived, evacuate immediately. The medical infrastructure was particularly clever. Dr. Auguste Plein, the island's physician, specialized in treating nervous exhaustion and artistic temperament. His medical notes, donated to a medical museum and only recently recognized for what they really were, show hundreds of English patients suffering from conditions that required extended treatment involving sun therapy, sea bathing, and social rehabilitation. His prescriptions, written in Latin, often translate to things like more wine and fewer clothes, or intensive relaxation with sympathetic companions. The Capri archive also reveals the darker side of paradise. There are blackmail letters quickly resolved by the network's lawyers. There are warnings about specific individuals. Lord X arrives Tuesday, drinks too much and talks when drunk. There are coded references to suicide attempts, boys who disappeared, lives ruined by indiscretion. Paradise had its price, and not everyone could pay it. But for those who could navigate its dangers, Capri offered something revolutionary, a glimpse of what life could be without shame. A letter from an anonymous English visitor found pressed between the pages of a guest book captures it perfectly. For 6 weeks I have lived as nature intended. I have loved without fear, laughed without restraint, and existed without apology. Tomorrow I return to London, to my marriage, to my seat in Parliament, to my life of careful lies. But I have tasted truth, and that can never be taken from me. Chapter 5. The Underground Railroad to Rome. By December 1894, the network has guided you south to Rome, where the gay grand tour reaches its most sophisticated and dangerous phase. Rome in the 1890s was a city of contradictions, the seat of papal authority, and simultaneously home to one of Europe's most organized homosexual undergrounds. The evidence uncovered from the Pension Albion near the Spanish Steps reveals an operation that makes Venice look amateur. The Pension Albion, run by an English widow named Mrs. Pemberton, definitely not her real name, was supposedly a respectable boarding house for English gentlemen studying classical antiquities. The reality, revealed in documents hidden inside hollowed-out books discovered during building renovations in 2021, was far more interesting. Mrs. Pemberton was actually Marcus Pemberton, a former cavalry officer who'd fled England after a scandal, and his widow's weeds, were the perfect disguise for running Rome's most exclusive gay safe house. The guest registry reads like a code breaker's nightmare. Every name is false, but consistently false. The same pseudonyms appear in Venice, Capri, and Rome, creating a traceable network of identity. You're registered as Mr. Douglas of Queensberry, a darkly humorous choice given your father's rabid homophobia. Oscar Wilde appears as Mr. Ernest, years before his play would make the name famous. The Roman network had to be more careful than its counterparts. The Vatican's influence meant that getting caught could result in more than social embarrassment. The Papal States might have been dissolved, but the Church still had enormous power. The solution was brilliant: hide in plain sight by becoming exactly what you claimed to be, scholars of classical antiquity. The Pemberton Academy, as residents called it, actually offered genuine classical education. The archive contains detailed lecture notes on Roman history, Greek poetry, and archaeological techniques. But read carefully, and the real curriculum emerges. A lecture on the Sacred Band of Thebes is really about how gay lovers fight harder to protect each other. A discussion of Hadrian's architectural innovations focuses extensively on his villa at Tivoli, where the emperor lived openly with Antinous. The photographs from Rome are more subtle than Capri's, but more politically subversive. There's a series of English gentlemen posing at various classical sites, but always with the same young Italian guide, always touching just slightly more than necessary. There's a magnificent image of a historical reenactment of a Roman banquet, where everyone seems to have forgotten that Romans wore more than laurel wreaths and wine stains. The Roman operation had developed an elaborate system of safe houses and escape routes. A map found in the archive shows the city marked with symbols: green dots for friendly establishments, red crosses for places to avoid, and blue lines showing routes between safe houses that avoided main thoroughfares and police stations. It's essentially a gay underground railroad, complete with conductors, stations, and code words. Your own time in Rome, Lord Alfred, was particularly eventful. Letters discovered in the Vatican Secret Archives, released in 2019, show that you were under surveillance by church authorities who suspected you of corrupting Roman youth. The irony of this accusation, given Rome's 2,000-year history of corrupting everyone else's youth, was apparently lost on them. The surveillance reports are unintentionally hilarious. A Swiss guard followed you for a week and reported, "Subject spends excessive time examining nude statuary. Shows particular interest in buttocks of Marcus Aurelius' equestrian statue. Met with known degenerates at Cafe Greco. Ordered wine at 10 a.m. Clearly morally compromised." The guard seemed unaware that half of Rome's tourists could be described identically. The network's response to surveillance was ingenious. They developed what they called the classical defense. If questioned, immediately launch into lengthy, boring lectures about ancient art. A document titled Emergency Responses advises, if arrested near male brothel, claim you were researching juvenile satires. If found in compromising position, insist you were recreating classical wrestling holds. If caught with younger man, explain you're mentoring him in Platonic philosophy. The more boring your explanation, the quicker your release. The Roman network also pioneered what we now call corporate sponsorship. Wealthy gay men would fund archaeological expeditions that were really excuses to spend months in Italy with handsome research assistants. The British Museum unknowingly funded dozens of gay romances in the name of classical scholarship. Your own trip, officially sponsored by the Oxford Classical Society to study Ovid's influence on Renaissance poetry, produced exactly 0 scholarly papers, but numerous photographs of you influencing young Italians in ways Ovid would have appreciated. The medical establishment in Rome was surprisingly progressive. Dr. Giovanni Santori, physician to the English community, wrote in his private journal, discovered in his grandson's attic, "These English boys arrive pale and miserable, convinced they are diseased. I tell them the only disease is their country's attitudes. I prescribe sunshine, wine, and the company of those who understand them. The cure rate is remarkable." But Rome also exposed the network's vulnerabilities. In December 1894, just as you were preparing to leave, a young English aristocrat named Henry Somerset was arrested in a police raid on a private party. The network mobilized immediately, Lawyers were summoned, bribes were paid, and Somerset was on a ship to Alexandria within 12 hours. But the incident sent shockwaves through the community. The party atmosphere of summer gave way to winter paranoia. Chapter 6. The Lavender Letters Home. As 1894 turns to 1895, you're back in Venice for one last week before returning to England. The Palazzo Mocenigo is quieter now. Winter has thinned the crowds, and news of arrests in Rome has made everyone cautious. But in Signor Benedetti's private study, something remarkable is happening. The compilation of what historians now call the Lavender Letters, the collective correspondence of the gay Grand Tour. The letters, over 300 of them found in the Palazzo's walls, create an extraordinary portrait of Victorian double lives. Each writer had to maintain two separate narratives, the official one for family and the real one for the network. The skill required to pull this off was remarkable. Your own letters home, Lord Alfred, are masterpieces of misdirection. To your mother, dearest Mamma, Venice continues to inspire my poetry. I spend my days in contemplation of Titian's use of colour, and my evenings in improving conversation with fellow scholars. The air here has done wonders for my constitution. To your lover in London. My darling boy, Venice has ruined me for England. How can I return to pretending indifference when I've lived months of passionate truth? Last night, Marco and I swam naked in the canal, and I thought I might die of happiness. The network had developed an entire system for safe correspondence. Letters between lovers were sent through intermediaries, often hidden inside books or artwork. The British Museum's archive, examined in 2020, revealed dozens of hollow book spines that once contained love letters, all catalogued as Italian Renaissance poetry volumes. The poetry was on the outside. The real passion was hidden within. Some writers developed elaborate codes. One correspondent used flower language. Roses meant, "I love you," violets meant, "I'm being watched," and chrysanthemums meant, "My wife is getting suspicious." Another used musical notation, writing love letters that looked like sheet music. A third wrote everything as biblical commentary, turning gay desire into theological allegory. The most poignant letters are those that were never sent. The archive contains dozens of unsent confessions, declarations of love deemed too dangerous to mail. One reads, "If I could, I would shout from St. Mark's Campanile that I love you. Instead, I write it here, seal it in silence, and pretend that somewhere, somehow, you know." The financial records from this period reveal the true cost of the Grand Tour. It wasn't just hotels and train tickets, it was bribes, blackmail payments, legal fees, and the constant expense of maintaining elaborate cover stories. Your own accounts show you spent more on discretion insurance than on accommodation. The network operated its own informal bank, lending money to those who needed quick escapes and collecting from those who could afford to pay. But the letters also reveal moments of unexpected joy and humour. There's a correspondence between two English lords, comparing their Italian lovers like wine vintages. My Giovanni is a robust Chianti, bold, immediate, leaves you slightly dizzy. Your Alessandro sounds more like a refined Barolo, complex, age-worthy, best appreciated slowly. Another writer complains, "The boy swears he loves me, but he also swore he was 23. He's clearly 19. Do Italian years count differently?" The medical correspondence is particularly fascinating. Doctors within the network wrote to each other about treating what they called the English condition, the psychological damage of lifelong repression. Dr. Santori in Rome writes to Dr. Plain in Capri, "They arrive so damaged by shame that they cannot accept pleasure without pain. It takes weeks to convince them that desire is not disease. I sometimes think England is one vast asylum where the inmates run the institution." As your departure approaches, the letters become more melancholic. The reality of return, to marriages, to Parliament, to lives of careful performance, weighs on everyone. A group letter, signed by 12 men preparing to leave, reads like a manifesto. "We, the undersigned, having tasted freedom, swear to protect and support each other in the prison of home. We shall meet at the Reform Club every third Thursday, speak in code and remember that we were for a brief glorious moment ourselves. The network prepared detailed instructions for maintaining sanity in England. Keep a diary, but in Greek. Frame your photographs, but display them in your study, not the drawing room. Maintain correspondence with art dealers in Italy. Plan your next escape before the current one ends. Remember, you are not alone, you are not diseased, and you will return. Your final letter from Venice, written to Oscar Wilde, survives in the Wilde family archive. Oscar, my dear, I leave tomorrow for the grey shores of home. I'm bringing back 3 trunks of clothes, 50 photographs I can never display, and a heart so full of illegal happiness I'm surprised customs doesn't arrest me. Thank you for introducing me to this world. I understand now why you say that, when one has been to heaven, hell becomes merely inconvenient. The last document in the archive is a group photograph taken on your departure day. 23 men stand on the Palazzo's water stairs dressed in their travelling clothes, trying to look respectable. But if you look closely, you can see the signs, the touches that linger, the gazes that hold too long, the smiles that know too much. At the bottom, someone has written, "The Brotherhood of Beautiful Sinners, Venice, January 1895. Until we meet again." As our journey through the gay Grand Tour concludes tonight, we're reminded that the past is far from dusty and dull. It's a vibrant, often surprising, and always intriguing tapestry, woven with human ingenuity, resilience, and the occasional ancient mystery that still makes us wonder. Until our next archaeological adventure together, this is The Sleeping Archaeologist, encouraging you to remain curious about the incredible tales still waiting to be discovered beneath our feet. Sweet dreams, fellow explorers. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and may your rest be filled with wonder at the remarkable tapestry of human history. But for now, stay tuned, as we have a bonus story coming right up, especially for you from our guest narrator.
Our next story is entitled The Real Reason Medieval People Smelled and It's Not What You Think. Let's be honest, you have a picture in your head. When I say medieval peasant, what do you see? You see a guy named Giles or something, covered head to toe in a sort of generic brown-grey filth, as if he's just crawled out of a bog. His teeth look like a condemned Stonehenge, and his hair has more grease than a deep fat friar at a county fair. You imagine he smells like a combination of old cheese, wet dog, and profound regret. For centuries, this has been the default image, served up by movies and television. The assumption is that people in the Middle Ages were just constitutionally opposed to soap. That they woke up, looked at a bucket of clean water and thought, no, I think I'll just marinate in my own essence for another decade. This popular image suggests a world where personal hygiene was not just neglected, but actively shunned, as if being clean was a moral failing. We're told they were ignorant, lazy, or perhaps just so pious they believed cleanliness was next to godlessness. We picture them stumbling through their short, brutish lives, caked in the grime of their own existence, blissfully unaware that a bar of soap and a bit of effort could dramatically improve their social prospects. It's a convenient cartoon, one that makes us feel wonderfully advanced, with our indoor plumbing and our bewildering array of scented shower gels. It's a caricature of profound historical ignorance, a comfortable lie we tell ourselves about the past to make our present feel more sanitized. We imagine their lack of bathing was a simple choice born of a simple mind. But the truth is infinitely more complex, more dangerous, and frankly, more interesting than that. It wasn't about a lack of desire to be clean. It was about economics, infrastructure, and a mortal terror of the very thing that was supposed to make them healthy. The idea that they were just lazy and dirty is completely, laughably wrong. Tonight, you are not a peasant. You are a master carpenter in London in the year of our Lord, 1345. Your name is John, and you are good at what you do. You have a workshop, apprentices, and a decent home above your shop. You own more than one set of clothes, and the central, surprising truth of your life is this: staying clean is one of the most expensive, time-consuming, and genuinely dangerous things you do. The proof of your struggle, the literal receipts for your desire to be clean, weren't found in a castle or a monastery. They were found by archaeologists centuries later at the bottom of cesspits and trash heaps in the heart of London. In the very places you'd expect to find nothing but filth, they discovered delicate carved bone combs for keeping your hair tidy. They found small metal tweezers, perfect for plucking stray hairs. They unearthed ear scoops, tiny metal tools for, well, you can guess. And most tellingly, they found lead tokens stamped with the insignia of local bathhouses. Think of them as the medieval equivalent of a gift card for a spa day. These weren't the artifacts of people who had given up on hygiene. They were the tools of people who were fighting a daily, uphill battle just to feel human, a battle for which we now have the archaeological evidence. This discovery, made in excavations across medieval cities, reveals something extraordinary about the practical realities of daily life. As we settle in tonight, we're going to uncover not just what archaeologists found, but what it tells us about the surprisingly relatable lives of people who lived in 14th century London. Now dim the lights and prepare to discover why this story will change how you think about taking a bath. The first thing you notice when you wake up is the noise. It's not the gentle hum of a modern city. It's a cacophony of life, raw and unfiltered. Your home is a timber-framed building, a narrow three-story structure leaning companionably against its neighbours on a busy London street. Your workshop, filled with the comforting scent of sawdust and beeswax, occupies the ground floor. You, your wife, and your children live in the 2 rooms above. The floorboards are wide, uneven oak, and through them you can already hear the rhythmic scrape and thump of your 2 apprentices starting their day below. They've been up since before dawn, and their youthful energy is both a blessing for your business and a curse on your sleep. Outside your window, the city is already a roaring river of sound. The clatter of wooden cartwheels on cobblestones, the iron-shod hooves of horses, the bellowing of a merchant selling eels, the shriek of a pig that has escaped its pen and is now enjoying a brief, glorious taste of freedom. And beneath it all, the constant, multilingual hum of thousands of people crammed into a space far too small for them. London, in 1345, is a marvel of the world, a thriving hub of commerce and power, but it is also profoundly, inescapably crowded. There is no concept of personal space as we would know it. Your neighbour's window is close enough to pass a cup of ale through, and you know far more about their domestic squabbles than you'd care to admit. You swing your legs out of the bed, a sturdy oak frame with a mattress stuffed with straw. It's not uncomfortable, but you make a mental note that it's time to change the straw again. Your feet touch the cold floorboards. The air in the room is chilly, carrying the damp scent of the nearby Thames and the lingering smell of wood smoke from last night's fire. There is no central heating, of course. The only warmth comes from the hearth in your main living area, which also serves as your kitchen. Now begins the first ritual of your day, the one that defines the boundary between the grime of the world and the dignity of your person. This is the act of the dry clean. In the corner of the room is a wooden stand holding a ceramic basin and a pitcher. The water in the pitcher is cold. It was hauled yesterday by your apprentice from the Great Conduit at Cheapside, a public fountain that provides cleaner water than the Thames, which is, to put it mildly, the city's communal toilet. That water is a precious commodity. It represents a significant expenditure of time and energy. To just splash it around thoughtlessly would be like lighting a fire with silver coins. So you pour a small amount into the basin. Not enough for a good soak, but enough to wet a linen cloth. You inherited a belief, passed down through generations, that linen is a remarkable fabric. It is absorbent and slightly abrasive when wet. You scrub your face, your hands, your neck, and your underarms with the damp cloth. It's an invigorating, if brisk, experience. The linen lifts the sweat and dirt from the night, and the friction, you've been told, is good for the skin. This isn't a bath, not by a long shot, but it is a conscious act of hygiene. It's maintenance. It's what you do every single day. Next, you reach for a small pot of ointment. It's made from animal fat and scented with herbs from your wife's small window box, lavender and rosemary. You rub a little on your skin to combat the chafing and dryness of city life. Then you take out your comb. It's your prized possession, carved from a piece of deer antler, with fine teeth on one side and coarse teeth on the other. You meticulously work it through your hair and your beard, removing any tangles and bits of workshop debris. This isn't just about vanity. A clean, well-combed head of hair is less likely to host lice, a constant and unwelcome companion in medieval life. You are a master craftsman, a respected member of the Carpenters Guild. Your appearance matters. It signals your status, your reliability, and your health. Showing up to a client's house looking like you've been sleeping in a ditch is bad for business. The most important part of your daily hygiene, however, isn't about water at all. It's about your clothes. You strip off the linen shirt you slept in. This is your primary defense against the world. Unlike your heavy wool tunic and hose, which are difficult and expensive to clean, your linen undergarments can be washed relatively easily. They are your body's blotter paper. They absorb the sweat, the oils, and the grime of daily life, wicking it away from your skin and trapping it in the fabric. A clean linen shirt, changed regularly, is the medieval secret to staying clean. You have several of them, a sign of your relative prosperity. Poorer folk might only have one, worn until it practically disintegrates. You put on a fresh one, and the feeling of the clean, crisp fabric against your skin is a small but profound luxury. It's a shield. You're now ready to face the day. You've used less than a pint of water, a bit of herbal ointment, and a clean shirt. To a modern observer, you might still seem unwashed, but in the context of your world, you have performed a careful, resource-conscious ritual of personal maintenance. You are clean enough, for now. The real challenge isn't this small morning routine. The real challenge is the pervasive, inescapable filth of the world just outside your door, and the monumental effort it would take to achieve a state of true, immersive cleanliness. You pull on your woolen tunic, your hose, and your thick leather shoes, and you can already smell the sawdust calling. But you're also thinking about that invitation to the guild dinner next week. For that, this simple morning wash will not be nearly enough. You're going to need a bath, and that, you know, is where the trouble begins. The decision to take a proper bath is not one you make lightly. It's the medieval equivalent of deciding to renovate your kitchen. It requires planning, a significant budget, and an acceptance that things could go horribly wrong. Your day-to-day existence is a constant negotiation with dirt. Your workshop floor is a perpetual carpet of sawdust, wood shavings, and the occasional dollop of glue. The street outside your door is a slurry of mud, animal dung, and discarded refuse. You wash your hands meticulously before every meal, your wife insisting on it, using a small bowl of water with a sprig of rosemary in it to cut the grime. But the dirt is tenacious. It gets into the grain of the wood you work, under your fingernails, and into the very fabric of your clothes. After a few days of heavy work on a new set of choir stalls for the local church, you feel gritty. The fine dust of the oak has settled into every pore. Your hair feels stiff, and you have a persistent sense of being coated in a thin film of your own labor. It's a feeling of satisfaction, a testament to your hard work, but it's also deeply uncomfortable. The guild dinner is in 2 days. You will be sitting with the wardens of your company, wealthy men who can make or break your career. You need to be presentable, you need to be clean, truly clean. So, you face a choice. Option 1, the home bath. This sounds cozy, private, and safe. It is none of those things. Let's break down the logistics. First, the water. You'll need a lot of it. Not just the pitcher your apprentice fetches each morning, but gallons and gallons. This means either sending the boy back and forth to the public conduit a dozen times, a process that will take hours and earn you the glares of everyone else in the queue, or paying a professional water carrier, a cob, to deliver it. These men haul massive barrels on their shoulders or on carts, and they charge by the bucket. To fill a wooden tub big enough for you to sit in would cost several pence. To put that in perspective, a skilled labourer like yourself might earn 4 or 5 pence for an entire day's work. You'd be spending about half a day's wages just on the water. But you can't just sit in a tub of cold water. That's not a bath. It's a punishment. You need hot water, and for that you need fire. Your small hearth is fine for cooking a pot of stew, but it's not designed to heat 20 gallons of water. You would need to build a much larger fire using a significant amount of your precious firewood or charcoal, which, again, costs money. You'd have to heat the water in smaller batches in your largest iron cauldron, a slow and smoky process that would fill your small living quarters with steam and the risk of stray sparks. Remember, you live in a house made almost entirely of wood pressed up against other houses made of wood. An uncontrolled fire is not a minor accident, it is a neighborhood-destroying catastrophe. The entire city is a tinderbox, and the sound of the parish church bells ringing the alarm for a fire is a sound that strikes terror into every heart. Assuming you manage to heat the water without burning down your street, you then have to get it from the hearth to the tub. The tub is a heavy oak barrel, and it's currently in the workshop. You and your apprentices would have to haul it up the narrow, winding stairs to your living quarters. Then comes the truly perilous part, transferring the scalding water from the cauldron to the tub, one bucket at a time. The floor is uneven, the steam makes everything slick. A single misstep could result in a horrific, life-altering burn. There are no modern emergency rooms. A bad burn often means a slow, agonizing infection and, quite possibly, death. So the home bath, your supposed sanctuary of private cleanliness, is in fact a costly, time-consuming and physically dangerous ordeal. It's a project you might undertake a few times a year, perhaps before Christmas or Easter, but it is not a casual weeknight activity. This brings you to option 2, the public bathhouse. London has several of them, known colloquially as stews. They are in many ways the heart of the city's social life. Here, for a single penny, you can get a hot bath. For a little more, you can get a scrub from an attendant, a meal, and a glass of wine. It's a one-stop shop for cleanliness and leisure. It sounds like a perfect solution. The cost is manageable, there's no risk of burning your own house down, and all the water is heated and hauled by someone else. But the bathhouse has a reputation. It's a place of business, yes, where merchants discuss contracts while soaking in the steam. But it's also a place of other business. The name stews is also slang for a brothel. While some bathhouses are respectable establishments, many are not. Going to the stews can be a mark against your character. The church preaches against them constantly, decrying them as dens of sin and temptation, where men and women bathe together in a flagrant display of immorality. You are a respectable guildsman. Your reputation is your most valuable asset. Being seen entering the wrong kind of bathhouse could lead to gossip, which could lead to a loss of business. And then there is the other fear, a deeper and more primal one. It's the fear of disease. You don't understand germs, of course. The concept of microscopic organisms is centuries away. But you do understand contagion. You know that sickness can pass from one person to another. And the prevailing medical theory, based on the teachings of ancient Greeks like Galen, is that the body's health is a matter of balance. It's believed that illness can enter the body through the pores of the skin. A hot bath, which opens up the pores, is seen by many physicians as a dangerous invitation for bad air or pestilence to seep into your very being. You'd be sharing the bath water with dozens of other people, any one of whom could be carrying an illness. The bathhouse, a place of cleansing, could also be a place of contamination. It's a terrible paradox. So this is your choice. Risk burning down your home and spending a small fortune for a private bath, or risk your reputation and your health for a public one. Neither is ideal, neither is simple. Every citizen of London faces this same dilemma. You look at your hands, the ingrained dirt in the calluses. You think of the guild dinner, of the warden looking you over with his critical eye. The decision is made. You will go to the bathhouse, but you'll go to the respectable one near St. Paul's, the one frequented by other craftsmen. You'll take the risk. You just hope it's the right one. The thought sends a small, cold shiver down your spine that has nothing to do with the morning chill. The day of the bath arrives. You finish your work early, handing over the workshop to your senior apprentice with a series of stern instructions. You change out of your work clothes and into your second best tunic, the one made of good English wool, dyed a respectable russet brown. Going to the bathhouse is an event, and you dress for it. Your wife hands you a small linen pouch. Inside is a penny for the bath itself, another halfpenny in case you decide you want a nail, and a small, hard lump of soap. This soap is a household treasure. It's not the fragrant, colourful bar you'd find today. It's a dense, brownish block made from mutton fat and wood ash, boiled together for hours in a backyard cauldron. It has a strong, sharp smell, and it's caustic enough to take off a layer of skin if you're not careful, but it cuts through grease and grime like nothing else. Some people use fuller's earth or fragrant herbs like soapwort, but for a deep clean, nothing beats proper lye soap. You tuck the pouch into your belt along with a clean linen towel. The bathhouse provides towels, but you trust your own. You step out onto the street. The mid-afternoon sun is weak, filtered through a haze of wood smoke that perpetually hangs over the city. The air is thick with the smells of life, the savoury scent of a nearby cookshop, roasting chickens, the acrid tang of a tannery down the lane, the unmistakable aroma of hundreds of horses and thousands of people living in close quarters. You navigate the crowded thoroughfare, sidestepping a pile of discarded oyster shells, nodding to a fellow guildsman, and deftly avoiding a stream of dirty water thrown from an upstairs window. This is the sensory world you are trying to wash away, even as you walk through it. You arrive at the bathhouse. It's a large timber-framed building, distinguished from its neighbours by a painted sign depicting a bathtub and the steam billowing from its open doors. You step inside, and the change in atmosphere is immediate. You move from the cool, clammy air of the street into a wall of warm, moist heat. The air is thick with steam and smells of damp wood, herbs and warm bodies. The noise of the city is replaced by a more intimate soundscape. The splash of water, the low murmur of conversations, the clinking of cups. A man at the entrance, the bathkeeper, takes your penny. In exchange, he hands you a small lead token, the kind archaeologists will one day puzzle over. This is your ticket. You proceed into a disrobing room, a small antechamber with wooden benches along the walls. Here, men are in various states of undress, chatting and laughing. There is a sense of camaraderie, of shared purpose. You are all here to shed the grime of the world for a few hours. You strip down, folding your clothes neatly and placing them on a bench. You are vulnerable now, equal to the man next to you, whether he's a stonemason or a fishmonger. Class and profession are temporarily left behind with your tunic and hose. Wrapping your towel around your waist, you walk through a final doorway and into the main bathing room. It's a large, cavernous space with a high, vaulted ceiling to let the steam escape. The floor is paved with stone, slick with water. In the center of the room are two enormous wooden tubs, each large enough to hold a dozen men. They are filled with steaming water heated by a furnace in a room below, the smoke channeled out through a chimney. The water is not the crystal clear, chlorinated water of a modern pool. It has a slightly cloudy, greyish tinge from the bodies that have been in it, and the minerals from the well it was drawn from. But it is hot, and that is what matters. You ease yourself into one of the tubs. The heat is a shock at first, but then it sinks into your muscles, loosening the knots of tension from days spent hunched over a workbench. You lean back against the wooden side, letting out a long sigh of relief. The water laps at your chest. Around you, men are talking business, sharing gossip, or simply soaking in silence. A bath attendant, a young boy, comes by with a tray of wooden cups filled with ale. You hand him your halfpenny and take one. The cool, bitter ale is a perfect contrast to the heat of the water. This is more than just getting clean. It's a social ritual. It's the medieval version of going to the pub or the coffee shop. You see a merchant you've been trying to get a contract with and exchange a friendly nod. You overhear a piece of juicy gossip about a rival guild. This is where the city's informal business is conducted, where relationships are forged in the steam. After soaking for a while, you get to work. You take out your lump of soap and begin to scrub. You wash your hair, your beard, your entire body, working up a meager lather. The water around you turns a shade darker. An attendant offers you a scrubbing with a handful of fragrant herbs, but you decline. You're here on a mission. Once you feel thoroughly clean, you stand up, and an attendant sluices you with a bucket of slightly cooler, cleaner water, a final rinse to wash away the soap and the last of the dirt. You step out of the tub, feeling reborn. Your skin is pink and soft, your muscles are relaxed. You feel lighter, both physically and mentally. You dry yourself with your linen towel and head back to the dressing room. As you put on your clothes, they feel different. Your clean skin against the familiar wool of your tunic is a sensation of pure comfort. You feel presentable. You feel dignified. You feel ready to meet with the guild wardens. But as you step back out into the cool evening air, a familiar anxiety returns. The bathhouse was a sanctuary, but it was a shared one. You remember the man who was coughing near you in the tub, the general cloudiness of the water. You've scrubbed the dirt from your skin, but you can't help but wonder what else you might have picked up. You've opened your pores to the healing warmth, but what if you've also opened them to something more sinister? The fear is a quiet, nagging thought at the back of your mind. You've done what you needed to do to maintain your place in society, but there is always a price. For now, though, you are clean. And as you walk home through the darkening streets of London, that feeling is enough. The city's filth can wait until tomorrow. Tonight, you are a new man. You just have to hope the price wasn't too high. The days following your visit to the bathhouse are good ones. You feel refreshed, and the guild dinner is a success. You secure a promising new commission from one of the wardens to build a new set of carved screens for his private chapel. Your clean appearance and confident demeanor made a good impression. Your small investment in the bathhouse paid off. Your wife comments on how much better you smell, and even your apprentices seem to treat you with a renewed sense of respect. The small anxieties about disease begin to fade, replaced by the familiar rhythms of work and family life. Life in 14th century London is a tapestry woven with these moments of simple, hard-won comfort. A successful business deal, a warm meal at the end of a long day, the feeling of clean linen on clean skin. These are the things that make the hardships bearable. The hardships, of course, are ever present. You see them every day. You see the beggars with their missing limbs and scarred faces. You hear the church bells tolling for the dead, a near constant sound in a city where life is fragile. Childbirth is a perilous journey for every woman, and a simple infection from a splinter in your hand could be a death sentence. You live with a background level of risk that would be unimaginable to a modern person. It's not that you're callous, you're just accustomed to it. It's the water you swim in. This acceptance of risk is why the bathhouse, despite its potential dangers, remains so popular. It offers a tangible reward, cleanliness, relaxation, social connection, in exchange for a theoretical risk. You weigh the odds every day in 100 different ways. Is this piece of fish fresh enough to eat? Is that street safe to walk down at night? Is the bathhouse worth the potential for sickness? For most of your life, the answer to that last question has been yes. But then the world begins to change. It starts with whispers, strange rumors carried by sailors and merchants from distant ports in the east. They speak of a terrible pestilence, a sickness so swift and deadly it can wipe out entire towns in a matter of weeks. They call it the Great Mortality. At first, it's just a story, a frightening tale from a faraway land, no more real than a dragon or a griffin. You hear it discussed in the marketplace and in the taverns, but it doesn't touch your life. It's someone else's problem. Then in the summer of 1348 it arrives. It comes ashore in the south of England and begins its relentless march across the country. By autumn, it is in London. The familiar tolling of the church bells becomes incessant, a frantic, desperate rhythm that never stops day or night. The death carts begin to make their rounds, their drivers calling out, "Bring out your dead," a sound that will haunt the city for generations. The Black Death is unlike any sickness you have ever known. It is terrifyingly indiscriminate. It takes the young and the old, the rich and the poor, the pious and the sinner. Friends you shared an ale with last week are gone. Entire families on your street disappear behind doors marked with a red cross. The city, once so full of life and noise, becomes a place of fear and silence. The air, always thick with smoke, now carries a new, sweet, cloying smell of decay. The physicians are powerless. They try their strange and useless remedies, bleeding, purging, potions made of crushed emeralds and unicorn horn. Nothing works. The priests tell you it is the wrath of God, a punishment for the sins of mankind. People flock to the churches praying for deliverance, but they die in the pews. In the midst of this terror, a new medical consensus begins to form, born of desperation. The learned men, the physicians and scholars, look for a cause, a way the disease is spreading, and they fixate on the old fear, the idea of sickness entering the body through the skin. They look at the bathhouses, these warm, steamy, communal spaces where hundreds of people gather, where the pores of the body are opened wide, and they declare them to be death traps. Public notices are posted. The King's Council, on the advice of the College of Physicians, orders the closure of all public bathhouses. It's not a moral crusade by the church anymore. It's a public health emergency. The very places you once went to feel clean and healthy are now branded as epicenters of contagion. The idea takes root with terrifying speed. To bathe in hot water is to invite the plague into your body. Cleanliness, once a sign of status and health, is suddenly associated with recklessness and death. The bathhouse on your street, the one with the steam billowing from its doors, goes quiet. Its fires are extinguished, its great tubs are drained. The cheerful sound of splashing and conversation is replaced by an eerie silence. And you, like everyone else, adapt. You stop going. The risk is no longer theoretical, it's lethally real. Your hygiene routine changes, becomes more insular, more focused on what you can do within the relative safety of your own home. You rely more than ever on your linen undergarments, changing them with an almost religious devotion. You scrub your hands and face with cold water and lye soap, but the idea of a full, immersive hot bath now fills you with a deep-seated dread. You teach your children to do the same. Over time, this becomes the new normal. The plague eventually recedes, leaving a scarred and emptier London in its wake. Nearly half the city's population is gone, but the fear remains. The bathhouses do not reopen. The cultural habit has been broken. shattered by trauma. For the next few centuries, public bathing will largely disappear from English life. People will continue to keep clean using basins and linen and combs, but the communal celebratory act of the hot bath will become a distant memory associated with a time of unimaginable death. This is the great, tragic irony. The decline in bathing during the late medieval and early modern period was not a slide into lazy ignorance. It was a direct result of a catastrophic pandemic and the best medical advice of the time. It was a rational response to a terrifying threat. You didn't stop bathing because you stopped caring about being clean. You stopped bathing because you were terrified of dying, and this fear, passed down through generations, would eventually curdle into the historical myth we know today, the myth of the great unwashed, the dirty, smelly medieval peasant who simply didn't know any better. But you knew better. You just lived in a world where a hot bath was a gamble with your own life, and eventually the odds just became too high. The archaeological receipts found in your cesspits, the combs, the tweezers, the bath tokens, are not just objects. They are testaments to a time before the fear, a time when being clean was a luxury worth fighting for. They are the echoes of a lost world of communal bathing, a world that was washed away not by dirt, but by death. As we look back, it's easy to judge, it's easy to see the flaws in their medical understanding, to scoff at the idea of disease entering through the pores. But to do so is to miss the point. You, the 14th century carpenter, were not stupid. You were living through a trauma we can barely comprehend, and you were making the best decisions you could with the information you had. Your world was not a simple cartoon of filth and ignorance. It was a complex, challenging, and often terrifying place where the simple act of taking a bath was fraught with a web of economic, social, and mortal dangers. The cesspits of London, where archaeologists found those intimate tools of daily life, tell a more truthful story. A cesspit is a sealed anaerobic environment, meaning there's no oxygen. This creates an incredible state of preservation for organic materials like wood, leather, and fabric that would normally rot away. So when archaeologists excavate these sites, they are opening a time capsule of everyday life. They are not just finding pottery shards, they are finding the very fabric of your world. They find the leather of your shoes worn thin at the heel. They find the scraps of wool from your tunic and the delicate weave of your linen undergarments, giving us a real, tangible sense of what you wore. They find the cherry pits and fish bones from your dinner, telling them about your diet. And amongst all this domestic refuse, they find the evidence of your desire for cleanliness, not just the combs and the bath tokens, but things like manicure sets with tiny files and picks. They find remnants of soap-making operations. These aren't the artifacts of a people who embraced filth. They are the artifacts of a people who, in the face of incredible obstacles, still tried. They still combed their hair, tweezed their brows, and sought out the profound comfort of a hot bath when they could. These discoveries force us to revise our cartoonish stereotypes. They replace the image of the mud-caked peasant with a much more nuanced and human portrait. A portrait of you, John the Carpenter, weighing the cost of firewood against the need to feel clean. Of you navigating the social minefield of the public stews. Of you meticulously caring for your linen shirts, your first and best line of defense against the grime of the world. And finally, a portrait of you living through the terror of the Black Death, a cataclysm that so fundamentally rewired your society that even the simple act of bathing became a source of fear. This story isn't just about soap and water. It's about how societies respond to crisis. It's about how easily cultural norms can be shattered and reformed by fear. The shift away from bathing wasn't a failure of hygiene, it was a desperate, if misguided, attempt at survival. It's a powerful reminder that the practices of the past often had a complex logic that is invisible to us until we dig a little deeper, sometimes literally into the soil beneath our feet. The people of the Middle Ages weren't so different from us. They wanted to be clean, comfortable and healthy. They just had to navigate a world where achieving those simple things was far more difficult and dangerous than we can possibly imagine. They weren't dirty because they were lazy. They were dirty because life was hard, and staying clean was harder. As our journey through the daily struggles of a 14th century Londoner concludes tonight, we're reminded that the past is far from dusty and dull. It's a vibrant, often surprising, and always intriguing tapestry woven with human ingenuity, resilience, and the occasional ancient mystery that still makes us wonder. This is the sleeping archaeologist, encouraging you to remain curious about the incredible tales still waiting to be discovered beneath our feet. The latest from Pompeii, new discoveries still emerging from the ashes. All right, let's just get this out of the way. When you hear Pompeii, doesn't your brain immediately conjure up images of toga-clad senators, dramatic plaster casts, and perhaps a very dusty history textbook? Maybe you think it's all been dug up, catalogued, and neatly filed away. A done deal, a historical closed case. After all, Vesuvius blew its top, froze the moment, and for centuries we've been picking at its bones. What more could possibly be left to find? Surely any new discovery is just another broken pot, another slightly less impressive wall painting. Well, tonight we're going to put that rather comfortable, slightly lazy assumption firmly to bed, or at least tuck it in with a story that proves it gloriously, utterly wrong. Tonight, you are the proprietor of a thriving little eatery, a thermopolium in the bustling Regio 5 district of Pompeii. It's the year 79 CE, and the midday sun warms the cobbled streets. You are not some patrician lounging in a villa, nor a stoic philosopher pondering the cosmos. No, tonight, you are a hands-on, quick-witted entrepreneur, a freedman by the name of Eutychus, whose daily grind involves ensuring the good folk of Pompeii get their fill of piping hot food and cool drinks. You're living proof that Pompeii wasn't just about the elites. It was a city of grinders, of dreamers, and of people just trying to make a living, sometimes with surprisingly sophisticated flair. And the proof, my friends, is in the pudding, or rather the archaeological receipts. We're talking about a spectacularly preserved snack bar, the Thermopolium of Regio 5, complete with vibrant, almost shockingly fresh frescoes depicting ducks, chickens, and a rather flirtatious Nereid riding a seahorse. But it's not just the art, it's the physical evidence, the deep imprints on the counter where serving dishes once sat, the traces of duck, pig, goat, and even fish and snails found in terracotta pots ready for sale. It's a snapshot, not of a grand villa, but of everyday life, so complete it forces us to rewrite our understanding of this ancient metropolis. This discovery, made just a few years ago, reveals something extraordinary about Pompeii. As we settle in tonight, we're going to uncover not just what archaeologists found, but what it tells us about the surprisingly relatable lives of people who lived in this Roman city, mere moments before its tragic end. But before we begin this journey together, write in the comments where you are listening from. It's fascinating to learn where in the world you are. Also, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. Now dim the lights and prepare to discover why this story will change how you think about the life and death of Pompeii. Chapter 1. The Flavor of Final Moments. So there you are, Eutychus, wiping down the polished marble counter of your Thermopolium. The mid-morning rush has subsided, but the air still hums with the memory of voices, the clatter of terracotta bowls, and the lingering aroma of spiced lentils and warm wine. You run a popular establishment. known for its hearty fare and the artistic flair of its counter. Imagine, if you will, tracing your fingers over the vibrant frescoes painted right onto your serving area. There's a proud, strutting rooster, a duck suspended by its feet, ready for the pot, and then a stunningly sensual nereid, a sea nymph, riding a seahorse. These aren't just pretty pictures, they're your menu, your brand, your ancient advertising campaign telling customers exactly what they could expect from your kitchen. It's like having a giant, exquisitely painted menu board, but instead of neon, it's all natural pigments and a master's touch. This thermopolium in Regio 5, uncovered with incredible care by modern archaeologists, wasn't just a find, it was the find that truly brought Pompeii's everyday pulse back to life. Think about it. For decades, our understanding of Pompeii was heavily skewed towards the grand villas of the wealthy. We saw their art, their sprawling gardens, their elaborate mosaic floors. But what about the majority? What about the folks who grabbed a quick bite on their way to the forum, or the laborers looking for a cheap, hot meal? This thermopolium is their story, and now it's your story. The archaeologists, with their meticulous brushes and modern digital imaging, found amphorae, those tall, pointed storage jars, still nestled in racks, probably holding wine or olive oil. But the real treasure was inside the dolia, large terracotta jars permanently set into the counter, the ancient equivalent of hot food wells. What they found there was astonishing. Traces of duck bones, pig scraps, even goat, and not just meat. There were remnants of fish and snails mixed with broad beans. It wasn't a fine dining experience, but it was varied, hearty, and remarkably sophisticated. This wasn't just gruel, this was fast food with flavor, ingredients clearly chosen with care. You, Eutychus, were feeding a diverse clientele from the working man to the occasional merchant. The discovery was so fresh, so vivid, it felt like the cooks had just stepped away for a moment. They even found remnants of fava beans used to modify the taste of wine. Imagine the sensory overload, the sizzle of meat, the clink of cups, the lively chatter, the warm smell of spices and bread. This wasn't a dead city, it was a vibrant, aromatic snapshot of life, literally frozen in time. And it challenges the notion that ancient diets were monotonous or purely vegetarian for the common folk. You were offering a robust, protein-rich menu, quite unlike the bland porridge that some historians used to imagine. As the sun begins its slow arc towards the west, casting long shadows across the Pompeian streets, you might be thinking about the evening rush, the final preparations for another busy dinner service. But what you couldn't know, what no one in Pompeii could have imagined, was that in just a few short weeks, the very volcano that loomed so majestically in the distance would unleash its fury, turning this vibrant, delicious reality into an archaeological puzzle for future generations to solve. And as we'll see, the puzzles this thermopolium presented only got more intriguing, revealing deeper layers of life in the city of Vesuvius. Chapter 2 echoes of 1,000 meals. You, Eutychus, are a man of routines, the clatter of bowls, the warmth of the brazier, the familiar faces of your regulars. These are the rhythms of your day. But as archaeologists delved deeper into your thermopolium, the discoveries went beyond just the menu. They began to reveal the central mystery of how people lived and died in this very spot. What else was hidden beneath the volcanic debris, ready to spill its secrets? This wasn't just a simple snack bar, it was a social hub, a place where stories unfolded and sometimes where lives tragically ended. One of the most compelling aspects of this particular thermopolium was the discovery of human remains. Not just one, but two individuals found near the counter. One was an older man, perhaps an employee, or a customer seeking shelter from the ashfall, discovered on a cot. The other, an adult male, likely in his 50s, was found with his arms outstretched, as if trying to push away the encroaching doom. They were caught mid-moment, a stark reminder that life, even in its most mundane routines, can be interrupted without warning. And yet, even in their tragic finality, these remains offered profound insights. Consider the older man on the cot. He wore a heavy wool cloak, suggesting the chill that might have accompanied the initial ashfall, or simply the daily garb of the time. Around him, objects were scattered, a small bowl, a piece of fabric. These weren't just random items. They were extensions of his daily life, perhaps a last meal, a comfort item. And for those of us trying to piece together the fragments of an ancient existence, these seemingly small details are massive. They help us understand not just what people ate, but how they dressed, what personal items they valued, and where they sought refuge in their final moments. Then there was the man with outstretched arms. His posture tells a story of panic, of a desperate, futile struggle against an unstoppable force. But what truly intrigued archaeologists was the state of his bones, particularly his legs, which showed evidence of lesions. This wasn't just a detail, it was a clue. It suggested he might have been suffering from a bone infection, perhaps limiting his mobility. Imagine, if you will, the terror of Vesuvius erupting, the sky raining ash and pumice, and your body failing you. It adds a layer of poignant vulnerability to an already heartbreaking scene. These human remains, meticulously studied, help us connect with these individuals on a deeply personal level. They weren't just Romans or Pompeians. They were people with names, with daily struggles, with hopes and fears, just like us. And their final moments, captured in the very fabric of the disaster, speak volumes about the indiscriminate nature of such an event. You, Eutychus, might have known these men. Perhaps the older man was a loyal customer, stopping by every day for his usual. Maybe the man with the lesions was a new face, seeking a moment of respite from his illness. The mystery deepens, prompting us to ask not just what happened, but who were they? And this, dear listeners, is the beauty of modern archaeology. It's not just about digging, it's about detecting. It's about using advanced forensics, chemical analysis, and genetic studies to wring every last drop of information from these ancient bones. It's about giving voice to the voiceless, bringing individual stories into sharp, human focus. What these two individuals tell us, alongside the menus and the art, is that Pompeii was a city of real people, facing extraordinary circumstances and doing their best to survive. But these finds, compelling as they are just the tip of the iceberg. What else did the very walls of your thermopolium reveal about the people of Pompeii? We're about to find out, and it's far more colourful than you might expect. Chapter 3, The Murals and the Muses of Reggio 5. You're not just a thermopolium owner, Eutychus. You're also a patron of the arts, whether you realise it or not. The frescoes on your counter are more than just advertisements. They are windows into the culture, the humour, and even the superstitions of Pompeii. They hint at a deeper layer of daily life, a vibrant tapestry woven with the mundane and the mythical. And what archaeologists found painted on the walls of your establishment, and others like it, reveals much about how these people lived, loved, and even occasionally laughed at themselves. Take that Nereid on the seahorse, for instance. She's not just a decorative element, she's a nod to the sea, to trade, to the bounty of the Bay of Naples that sustained Pompeii. But she's also beautiful, perhaps even a bit playful, hinting at the Roman appreciation for beauty and sometimes a certain jovial sensuality. This was a culture that didn't shy away from depicting the human form or mythic figures in their everyday spaces. It's a reminder that ancient life, despite its hardships, was infused with colour, myth, and a certain robust enjoyment of existence. But the thermopolium of Reggio 5 held more specific, and frankly, more entertaining, artistic treasures. Another fresco showed a dog, perhaps even your own, Eutychus, on a leash. This isn't just a pet portrait, it's a detail that tells us about the animals people kept, the companionship they sought, and it's rendered with such charming realism you can almost hear the dog's tail thumping against the pavement. It grounds the space in a relatable, almost modern way. Who among us hasn't doted on a beloved pet? Then there are the more subtle, but equally revealing, details. Close by, archaeologists found an inscription, a graffito, scratched into plaster, that simply reads Nicia Sinidae. Now, for the modern ear, this might sound unremarkable. But Nicia was a Greek name, common among freed slaves and workers, and Sinide was a slang term, often used derisively, implying a person who was effeminate or submissive, sometimes implying a passive partner in same-sex relations. This little scratch isn't just a scribble, it's a whisper from the past, a hint at the social dynamics, the name-calling, the casual observations that filled the air of Pompeii. It shows us that human nature, with its gossip and its judgments, hasn't changed all that much. It also subtly alludes to the diverse spectrum of relationships and identities that existed, even if often unspoken or derided, in ancient Rome. It reminds us that these were real people, with real, sometimes complicated, social lives. Imagine yourself Eutychus, hearing such chatter, perhaps even seeing the inscription. You might shrug it off, or maybe it even sparked a knowing chuckle among your regulars. It's these tiny, seemingly insignificant details that allow us to step into their world, to feel the texture of their daily interactions. The Pompeians weren't just statues, they were breathing, gossiping, laughing, loving people whose lives were often as messy and colourful as our own. The walls of your thermopolium, therefore, became a kind of ancient social media feed, capturing fleeting thoughts and interactions, meant to be seen by all. The overall impression from these new thermopolium discoveries is one of astonishing vibrancy and social complexity. It challenges the image of ancient Rome as a monolithic, stern society. Instead, we see a dynamic culture where different social strata mingled, where slang was prevalent, and where art was both functional and aesthetically pleasing. You, Eutychus, were not just selling food, you were selling a piece of Pompeian life, complete with its jokes, its characters, and its enduring human spirit. But as we peel back these layers, we're about to uncover something even more surprising, a truth that fundamentally shifts our understanding of this ancient city. Chapter 4: The Unexpected Colors of Prosperity. As you, Eutychus, close up your thermopolium for the night, perhaps counting your earnings or preparing for the next day, you might pass by the grander homes, the villas with their imposing facades. Common wisdom for a long time held that these were the exclusive domains of the elite, the powerful, the genuinely wealthy. But modern archaeology, with its ever-improving techniques, has a knack for turning common wisdom on its head. And in the very same Regio 5 district where your humble snack bar thrives, a shocking truth emerged from the ashes, challenging our preconceived notions of who had made it in Pompeii. The discovery involved another house, not a thermopolium this time, but a private residence known as the House of the Lararium. While not as grand as some of the sprawling villas, it certainly wasn't a hovel. And what archaeologists found within its walls was profoundly surprising, incredibly elaborate, colourful, and richly detailed frescoes depicting mythological scenes and vivid landscapes. But here's the kicker: the house was relatively modest in size. This wasn't the home of a senator, it was likely the home of a successful merchant, or perhaps even a prosperous freedman like yourself who had ascended the social ladder. For decades, historians largely assumed that such lavish artistic displays were solely the preserve of the absolute aristocracy, that only the oldest, wealthiest families could afford such intricate, high-quality artwork. But this house of the Lararium, with its stunning frescoes, proves otherwise. It reveals a burgeoning middle class, or at least a highly aspirational and successful class of commoners who were investing heavily in their homes, proudly displaying their wealth and taste. It's like finding a modern suburban house with a Monet hanging in the living room, completely unexpected and indicative of a different kind of prosperity. Expert reactions to this discovery were, to put it mildly, thrilled. Massimo Ossana, the Director General of the Pompeii Archaeological Park, emphasized how these finds continually remind us of how much there is still to discover. He highlighted that such sophisticated artistry in a smaller, non-aristocratic home was a testament to the diverse economic and social strata within Pompeii. It shattered the simple, rich-poor binary that often colors our historical imagination. You see, Pompeii wasn't just a two-tiered society, it was a vibrant, multi-layered cake, and some of the richest frosting was found in unexpected places. This discovery also sheds light on the bustling economy of Pompeii. To afford such artwork, there had to be not just wealth, but also a thriving artistic community capable of producing it. Painters, plasterers, mosaicists, they all had to be gainfully employed, suggesting a robust demand for luxury goods and services that extended beyond the very top tier of society. You Tychus, might have even supplied food to some of these artisans, or seen them making their deliveries of paint pigments and scaffolding through the narrow streets. What this means for our understanding of Pompeii, and indeed of Roman society, is profound. It tells us that social mobility was perhaps more fluid than we previously thought, that a freedman, through hard work and good business sense, could accumulate significant wealth and then choose to display it, not just through property, but through art that rivaled the finest villas. It suggests a more dynamic, less rigid social structure where merit, opportunity, and sheer ingenuity could pave the way to a life of comfort and even artistic splendor. It truly paints a more colorful picture of Pompeii, reminding us that success and the desire to adorn one's life is a universal human trait, irrespective of ancient status. Chapter 5. Whispers from the Unseen. As the sun rises again over the silent, ash-covered remnants of Pompeii, the work of discovery continues. You, Eutychus, along with all the other inhabitants, have long since passed into the annals of history, but your city continues to whisper its secrets, not just through grand villas or bustling snack bars, but through the very fabric of its unexcavated earth. The broader implications of recent Pompeii discoveries extend far beyond individual homes or tragic final moments. They speak to the ongoing, ceaseless quest of archaeology, revealing that even in a place seemingly so thoroughly explored, the ground still holds wonders, and perhaps even a future for understanding our past. The true marvel of the latest from Pompeii isn't just one specific find, but the sheer fact that new, significant discoveries are still being made. We're not talking about simply cataloguing existing finds, we're talking about unearthing entirely new sections of the city using technologies that the first excavators couldn't have dreamed of. Ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR scanning, and even drone mapping are allowing archaeologists to peek beneath the surface without disturbing it, creating detailed 3D models of buried structures before a single shovel breaks ground. This allows for a much more strategic, less destructive approach to excavation. Consider the areas still unexcavated, vast tracts of Pompeii that remain beneath the meters of volcanic debris. These unseen parts of the city hold countless stories, waiting patiently for their turn. What if another thermopolium, even more richly decorated, is hiding there? Or perhaps a public bathhouse complete with graffiti and advertisements for gladiatorial games? Or a bustling marketplace with the exact contents of its stalls preserved, giving us even deeper insight into the economy and daily diets? The potential is staggering. One of the fascinating aspects of current research involves not just what is found, but how it is found. The meticulous excavation of the Thermopolium in Regio 5, for example, involved not just careful digging, but also scientific analysis of every crumb, every bone fragment, every stain. This tells us about food preparation, trade routes, even ancient diseases. It's an ongoing process of data collection and interpretation that builds on every prior discovery. The questions archaeologists are now asking are incredibly specific. How did the eruption truly unfold in specific districts? How did people attempt to escape, or where did they seek shelter? What were the precise social networks in a given block? The remaining mysteries are less about what's there and more about how to understand it all. How do we integrate these new finds, the humble snack bar, the surprisingly ornate smaller house, the detailed bone analyses, into a cohesive, nuanced understanding of Pompeii's complex society? How do we build a richer, more accurate picture that acknowledges the diversity of its inhabitants, from you, Eutychus, the resourceful freedman, to the grandest patrician? It's like assembling a 6,000-piece puzzle, but every few years a box arrives with 500 new, unexpected pieces. And this archaeological adventure is far from over. Future possibilities include uncovering entire new insulae, blocks of houses and businesses that have yet to see the light of day. Imagine finding a complete laundry full of clothes ready to be cleaned, or a bustling bakery with its oven still warm, if only in our imaginations. This ongoing work in Pompeii isn't just about preserving the past. It's about continuously learning, continuously refining our understanding, and acknowledging that history is a living, breathing thing, always capable of surprising us. And as we move towards our final reflections, we'll see how these silent voices, finally heard, echo across the centuries to touch our own lives. Chapter 6. The Unspoken Bond of Humanity. The ash has long settled, the tremors have ceased, and the screams of that terrible day have faded into the silent stone. Yet, as we return to you, Eutychus, and your bustling Thermopolium in Regio 5, the human legacy of Pompeii feels as vibrant and immediate as ever. Your story, your struggle, your daily grind, it all connects to us in ways that transcend the millennia. What these latest discoveries reveal is not just historical fact, but a profound and universal truth about the human experience. You, the enterprising freedman, serving your community, managing your business, facing the daily challenges and small triumphs. Your life resonates with the modern entrepreneur, the small business owner, the person striving to make a living and build a future. The desire for security, for comfort, for a good meal, shared with friends, these are not exclusive to any one era. They are the threads that weave through all human existence. The detailed forensic analysis of the human remains found near your counter, revealing health issues, and the desperate, instinctive struggle for survival speaks to our shared vulnerability. It reminds us that beneath the veneer of historical distance, these were people with bodies that ached, with fears that gripped them, just like us. Their dignity in suffering is palpable, even in their preserved agony. We see their agency in choosing where to shelter, even if that choice ultimately proved futile. The unexpected artistic splendor in a modest home, challenging assumptions about who could afford beauty and luxury, reflects a deeply human aspiration. It's the desire to improve one's surroundings, to express one's taste, to leave a mark. It's the impulse that drives us to decorate our own homes, to seek out art, to create spaces that reflect who we are, regardless of our social standing. It's a testament to the idea that success in any era often comes with the desire to adorn life with meaning and beauty. And those subtle inscriptions, the Nicia Sinide, scratched into plaster, are poignant reminders of the social complexities, the casual judgments, and the diverse spectrum of relationships that have always been part of the human story. They whisper of a world where individuals navigated identity and social perception, where the unspoken and the overt danced in ancient streets. They remind us that human beings have always found ways to express their individuality and form connections in myriad ways against the backdrop of their societal norms. Pompeii, through these recent excavations, has ceased to be merely a historical disaster site. It has become a vivid portrait of human resilience, ingenuity, and the enduring quest for meaning in daily life. It's a reminder that even in the face of sudden, catastrophic change, the human spirit strives, builds, creates, and connects. It's a city that continuously challenges our assumptions, invites our empathy, and deepens our understanding of who we were, and by extension, who we are. As our journey through the latest discoveries from Pompeii concludes tonight, we're reminded that the past is far from dusty and dull. It's a vibrant, often surprising, and always intriguing tapestry woven with human ingenuity, resilience, and the occasional ancient mystery that still makes us wonder. Until our next archaeological adventure together, this is the Sleeping Archaeologist, encouraging you to remain curious about the incredible tales still waiting to be discovered beneath our feet. Sweet dreams, fellow explorers. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and may your rest be filled with wonder at the remarkable tapestry of human history. But for now, stay tuned, as we have a bonus story coming right up, read especially for you by our guest narrator. Pompeii, through these recent excavations, has ceased to be merely a historical disaster site. It has become a vivid portrait of human resilience, ingenuity, and the enduring quest for meaning in daily life. It's a reminder that even in the face of sudden, catastrophic change, the human spirit strives, builds, creates, and connects. It's a city that continuously challenges our assumptions, invites our empathy, and deepens our understanding of who we were, and by extension, who we are. And as we walk further into this portrait, guided by the patient hand of archaeology, the details only become richer, more poignant. Think about Eutychus, our Thermopolium proprietor. His establishment, nestled among the workshops and homes of Regio 5, wasn't just a place to grab a quick meal. It was a lifeline. Imagine the network of suppliers he relied on, the farmers from the fertile plains around Vesuvius bringing fresh produce, the fishermen from the Bay of Naples delivering their daily catch, the wine merchants whose amphorae filled his racks. This wasn't a solitary enterprise, it was a node in a complex, bustling economy. He would have known their faces, their families, their daily struggles, and in return he provided sustenance, comfort, and perhaps a moment of shared humanity in a world that could often be harsh. His success wasn't just about profit, it was about integration into the fabric of his community. He was a pillar, a point of constant, reliable service in the ever-shifting currents of urban life. Consider the atmosphere within his Thermopolium, not just at midday, but as evening drew near. The oil lamps would flicker, casting dancing shadows on the vibrant frescoes. The aroma of simmering stews would mingle with the sharp scent of wine and the earthy smell of the street. It was a public living room, a place where people from different walks of life, laborers, artisans, freedmen like Eutychus, perhaps even a cloaked figure from a slightly grander house, could share a meal, exchange gossip, and catch up on the day's events. The soundscape would have been a constant hum of chatter, the clinking of ceramic on stone, the occasional burst of laughter, or a shouted greeting. These are the sensory echoes that modern archaeological science, through meticulous preservation and careful reconstruction, strives to bring back to life. It's not just about artifacts, it's about recreating the invisible, the intangible, the sheer aliveness of that moment. And then that dreadful day. The initial tremors, the ominous cloud, the rain of ash. Imagine the desperate scramble, The human remains found in Eutychus's thermopolium are not just scientific specimens, they are individuals caught in an unimaginable terror. The older man, perhaps an employee or a customer, seeking solace on a cot, his heavy cloak a futile shield against the encroaching dust and chill. Was he too infirm to flee? Was he overcome by the noxious fumes? The other, the man with outstretched arms, his lesions a cruel impediment to escape, his final gesture a primal scream against the inevitable. These are not statistics, they are personal tragedies, preserved in their agonizing finality. The archaeologists working with forensic anthropologists can glean so much from these bones, what they ate in their last months, where they might have come from through isotope analysis, even the diseases that afflicted them. This scientific rigor, far from dehumanizing them, actually imbues them with a hauntingly specific individuality, pulling them from the anonymity of the past into the vivid reality of their final moments. The sheer power of these discoveries lies in their ability to bridge the gap of 2 millennia. We look at the remnants of their duck and pig stew, and we think of our own comfort food. We see the vibrant art on the walls, and we recognize the universal impulse to decorate, to express, to find beauty in the mundane. We read the scratched graffiti, and we hear the echoes of playground taunts or lovers' declarations. Pompeii, in its preserved state, bypasses the filter of historical narrative and offers us a direct, unmediated encounter with the everyday lives of people astonishingly similar to ourselves. It is a profound act of empathy fostered by the shovel and the brush. The house of the Lararium, with its unexpected burst of artistic opulence in a non-aristocratic home, offers another powerful dimension to this human connection. It speaks volumes about the human desire for aspiration, for upward mobility, for the public display of success. This wasn't simply about showing off wealth, it was about a deeply ingrained cultural value placed on beauty, on the narratives of mythology, on the art of sophisticated living. The vibrant frescoes of gods, heroes, and pastoral landscapes weren't just pretty pictures, they were cultural statements. They signaled not just affluence, but also education, taste, and an understanding of the Roman world's rich tapestry of stories. This discovery forces us to re-evaluate the social fluidity of Roman society. It suggests that economic success, even for those not born into the patrician class, could translate into a life of considerable comfort and cultivated aesthetics, creating a dynamic, evolving social landscape rather than a static, rigidly divided one. And let us not forget the artists themselves, the unsung heroes of Pompeii, whose skilled hands brought these walls to life. The painters, the plasterers, the mosaicists, they were the creative engine behind this flourishing artistic scene. They operated in workshops, honed their craft, and catered to a diverse clientele, from the grandest villas to the homes of the newly prosperous, and even to the counter of Eutychus's thermopolium. Their existence, too, speaks to the vibrant economic ecosystem of Pompeii, a city where talent and craftsmanship were valued and rewarded. They were the cultural pulse, the visual storytellers, and their work, now revealed after centuries, continues to captivate and inform us. The graffito Nicia Sinede on Eutychus's wall isn't just an isolated scribble. It is a perfect example of how the walls of Pompeii acted as an ancient form of social media. Imagine the sheer volume of public discourse that would have taken place on these surfaces. Beyond insults, there were political endorsements, gladiator fight predictions, lost and found notices, romantic verses, simple greetings, and even philosophical musings. These weren't curated, polished pronouncements. They were the raw, unfiltered voice of the common Pompeian. They provide an intimacy with the past that few other archaeological sites can rival. They expose the passions, the prejudices, the humor, and the sheer ordinariness of their daily interactions. They remind us that human beings have always yearned to communicate, to leave their mark, to share their fleeting thoughts with the world around them, even if that world was merely a bustling street. These recent discoveries from Regio 5, therefore, aren't just isolated finds. They are interconnected threads that weave a denser, more intricate tapestry of Pompeian life. They illuminate a society far more complex, more nuanced, and ultimately more relatable than previous generations of historians might have imagined. The Thermopolium and its menu, the human remains and their poignant stories, the vibrant art in modest homes, and the candid whispers on the walls. Together, they paint a picture of a city brimming with life, ambition, and the full spectrum of human experience. It's this ongoing revelation, this continuous challenge to our assumptions, that makes Pompeii eternally fascinating. Each new brushstroke of excavation, each new scientific analysis adds another layer to our understanding, transforming it from a static monument of disaster into a dynamic, living narrative. It reminds us that history is never truly settled, never fully excavated. It is an ongoing conversation, a dialogue between the present and the past, mediated by the tireless dedication of archaeologists who respect these ancient lives enough to tell their stories with precision, empathy, and an unwavering commitment to the truth. And it is a conversation that profoundly enriches our own understanding of what it means to be human, connecting us across the vast expanse of time to the bustling streets and the vibrant lives of a city frozen in an instant. Good night.